you want to copy your own personal channel or whatever, I can send it to you after. But
Awesome.
hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Typical Skeptic podcast. I'm really excited about my guest today. Usually we talk about UFOs and conspiracies and the paranormal and stuff, but we also talk about alternative health and health modalities too. And that's kind of what we're going to be getting into today. Today I have with me PJ, and we'll ask PJ if he's ever had any paranormal or UFO experiences too. But so we will touch on that too, because you never know what people have had. But
Yeah.
what we're mainly going to be talking about is PJ Glassey. He's the author of Cracking Your Calorie Code and Budget Biohacking for Peak Health. He's the founder of X Gym. He's an exercise physiologist. He's a budget biohacker and the author of Cracking Your Calorie Code. You can find him on Instagram at xgyms, and website is xgym.com. And I wrote a little blurb about it. I wrote, tonight we welcome PJ Glassey, a results-driven exercise physiologist and budget biohacker dedicated to helping people transform their health and with science-backed strategies that don't break the bank. As the founder of XGym and author of Cracking Your Calorie Code, PJ has developed innovative methods to optimize fat loss, muscle building, and metabolic health efficiency. And tonight we'll cover budget biohacking on a budget, tools and protocols that actually work, debunking fitness myths and calorie confusion, time efficient training for busy people, nutrition hacks to supercharge metabolism, and longevity and anti-aging through smart lifestyle adjustments. And with all that said, I'd like to give him a big warm welcome to the show for the first time. PJ, thanks so much for coming on. It's really nice to meet you. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, yeah. So, take us through your journey. Like, how did this all start for you? And like, what made you want to get into like all the stuff you do as far as like biohacking health and optimizing fat loss and calorie. Your book, the Cracking the Calorie Code and everything.
Yes. Well, it all started because of how my brain is wired. It's wired like yours. So I'm completely skeptical about everything. I question everything, including myself. And so when I was younger, I got into fitness because I was a skinny kid and I didn't want to be a skinny kid. And so I started lifting weights and then got hooked. And that was in early high school. So then when I went to college at SPU, one of my other really passions and interests is psychology. So I started out as a psychology major, thinking I would end up, being like a counselor and helping people. And studying the brain is just fascinating to me. And so that was going great, except my real passion, or well, they're both passions, but my more intense passion was fitness, health, nutrition, all that kind of stuff. So I switched majors my senior year to exercise science, and that's what I graduated with. But both are still being used a lot in what I do. And now I have a gym. We do a X gym. We do a ton of online training, and we also have an exercise app. And I developed a brain type test because of my fascination with the brain. And it's basically a completely different exercise methodology that's opposite in most ways to traditional training, which was invented in 1891 by Eugene Sandow, who's a famous European strongman that immigrated to the US. So he did strongman shows and he was really buffed. But back in the late 1800s, guys were skinny, like I was, in ninth grade. And there wasn't really any obesity back then because everybody necessarily ate organic and they were active and all that kind of stuff. And there's no processed food. And so, but they weren't buffed like Eugene. And Eugene was getting all the chicks. So all the other guys wanted to get chicks. And so they talked Eugene into releasing his methodology. That's when sets and reps were born back in 1891. Well, it's still great for people that want to get jacked and that have that kind of time because it takes hours a day. But I wanted to come up with a methodology that took less time for busy people and one that didn't actually bulk people up, but just toned and defined them, but made them strong and in endurance and strength. and also that would be safer, so people wouldn't get injured all the time like they do with traditional training.
Can I tell you something about my situation? I would
Yeah.
love to run this by you because you
Mm.
seem like the perfect person for me to talk to. Like, first of all,
Mm-hmm.
like I do like 3 podcasts a day, so I'm always
Yeah.
busy. So your program might be perfect for me. But then
Mm-hmm.
here's what happens. So I have pictures. Like if you check out my Instagram, you'll
Mm-hmm.
see back in 2018, like I was literally ripped. I was doing like 300 to 400 push-ups a day. I was able
Uh,
to do 50 pull-ups, which
mm-hmm.
people know pull-ups are hard. I was doing like 300 crunches. I had a 4 pack. I've always like had the problem. I was on the wrestling team in high school, so
Mm-hmm.
we were always cutting weight. They had us running
Mm-hmm.
with garbage bags when I was like 13 years old. So
Mm-hmm.
I've always been involved in like some kind of like martial art, or like I did Brazilian jiu-jitsu and stuff too. But like I've always had issues with my weight after wrestling. Like after I stopped wrestling, I would get chubby, then I would lose weight, and so like I
Mm-hmm.
like when back in 2018 when I was ripped, I was like I had a 4 pack, but then I had a little bit of small belly fat on the bottom. But then
Mm-hmm.
what happened was the pandemic hit, and and I saw you dipped your toes into a little bit of conspiracy stuff. I checked out your Instagram, but then
Mm-hmm.
which I love, but then also I was dating this girl, and I thought she was like the girl of my dreams, and then we broke up in like
Mm-hmm.
2022, 2023, and then I just let myself go. I got so depressed. And
Mm-hmm.
you know about the brain, so this is
Mm-hmm.
exact. After everything you told me, I know you like to study the brain, so I thought my situation would be really interesting to you. So I got in
Mm-hmm.
this like real depressed state. I started eating like pizza and donuts and shit, and like
Mm-hmm.
not till recently did I start trying to get back in shape again. I'm running and walking every day, or at least trying to
Yep.
make time to run and walk every day. But I haven't started strength training, and I have to go to a conference in 2 weeks. I'm not going to be like completely in shape for it at all, but I would like
Mm-hmm.
to like look better. I would like to optimize the last 2 or 3 weeks. I think the conference is July 15th. I'd like to try to get the last 2, 3 weeks so I can look as decent as possible because I
Mm-hmm.
have to present myself in public. Like most of my work's online. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
that's what happened to me, and in my life has always been this constant, like I said, like I'll get like chubby, and then I'll lose weight and I'll get really in really good shape. And like I said, I have the pictures to prove it. But like I
Mm-hmm.
can never like get that like that healthy balance, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Does that make
Yeah,
any sense to you? What I just said?
it makes complete sense. And I can't tell you how many times I've heard that exact story from different people. And it really is all about the brain. So what you're doing when you get yourself in a certain mood is you're medicating your brain with food. Food is the most potent medication we have. It's way more extreme and effective than any drug that we have. And in fact, certain foods have been found to be even more addictive than meth. So,
Wow.
yeah, so it's really about changing your pattern. First, catching yourself in that pattern of whatever you want to label it, and then changing that pattern. And this actually is so your story is so common. I developed an entire brain type test to help people break their patterns. And it's braintype.me is the website, but people can go and take this 20 question quick test to determine which of the 16 brain types they are. And then when they do, they are given half a dozen brain training techniques to literally rewire their brain to think differently, to get out of the cycles and patterns and habits that they have and form new cycles, patterns, and habits because they're rewiring their brain. But for people that haven't taken the test, I tend to just say, hey, listen, I can give you some brain training techniques that could work instantly today. So let's talk about my favorite, which is the tapping method. And that's where you're tapping different acupressure points, mostly on your face and upper body, that interrupt a pattern that you're in. So if you're in a depressive pattern or if you're in an anxious pattern, fear pattern, you watch too much CNN, you're going to be a fear person. And so then you can do this technique to get out of that pattern and then instantly start thinking differently. But most importantly, you've broken the pattern. Because when you're in a pattern, no matter what it is, and by pattern, I mean It could be a habit. It could be an unconscious routine. It's usually a subconscious thing or a mood, whatever you are in, or a craving, even a craving for a certain type of food. That's a pattern. So it's breaking your pattern. And the three most effective ways to break your pattern are interrupt the pattern is change your focus and or your physiology and or your belief. The EFT technique does all three of those things at once. You can do one of those things and it could be effective. For instance, if you're in a depressive state, you're sitting down, you're probably hunched forward, you're probably closed body posture, you're probably breathing shallow in the upper part of your lungs, your head is tilted down, maybe you're frowning or maybe whatever your facial expression is, or sad. So the quickest, easiest thing to do is to stand up, stick your chest out, put your arms up in a victory pose. Boom. You've just changed your physiology. That's one of the three. And that is going to be easier now to change your focus and change your belief. Now, with the EFT technique, a lot of people call this a paranormal kind of a thing because, it's acupressure and
I've heard
Eastern
of the
kind of stuff.
EFT tapping before.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
yeah, yeah.
that's pretty
But
interesting that you do that. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, but all it is just changing your physiology, focus, and belief because you necessarily have to change your focus, and I'll show you the technique and I'll walk you through it, and you can even do it along with me. Because you'll have to focus on this because you're tapping specific points in a certain way and saying a certain thing. You're also changing your belief because of the words that you're using, and you're changing your physiology because you have to change your posture to do the exercise. That's why it's my favorite of all of them. So let's just say, because you brought it up, let's just say you're feeling depressed. So all you do is you change your present posture because that's the first thing. You want to stand up if you're sitting down or sit down if you're standing up. Step number one. Step number two is you do the setup. And the setup, the easiest way to do it, there's a couple of different ways. The easiest way to do it is to find the outside of the karate chop portion of your hand and start tapping on it.
Like right here?
Yeah. And you can tap with all your fingers or one or two, it doesn't matter. You're just tapping on that. And you really can't screw this up because the worst case scenario is it just won't work. But there's going to be no negative side effects. So you're just tapping away and you don't have to believe it's going to work either. That's the cool thing about it. You can be completely skeptical about this and be thinking the whole time, this is stupid. I feel so silly. And it still can work because it's energy meridians. So you're tapping on that part of your hand, and you're saying out loud, even though I feel this depression, I deeply and completely accept myself. So just say that.
Even though I feel this depression, I deeply accept myself.
Yep. And now, and again, even though I feel this depression, I deeply and completely accept myself.
Even though I feel this depression, I deeply and completely accept myself.
One more time. Even though I feel this depression, I deeply and completely accept myself.
Even though I feel this depression, I deeply and completely accept myself.
Great. That's the setup. Now your body is ready for the tapping routine. So you're going to start with two fingers on the inside of your eyebrow, on the inside edge, so above your nose. Pick a
Okay.
side, it doesn't matter what side. Now, try to feel that emotion. You're trying to stay in this emotion while you're doing this tapping, so the tapping in the statement interrupts it. Now, just to remind yourself that you're trying to feel it, you just say it, this depression,
This
as you're
depression.
tapping. Yep, and tapping, around 10 times. You don't have to count, but you're not hurrying through it. Now the outside of your eyebrow, this depression.
This depression.
Now underneath your eye, it's a light tap, doesn't have to be hard.
Yeah, it's
This
just
this depression.
this depression.
Now underneath your nose, this depression.
This depression.
So this is underneath your nose above your lip for people that aren't watching a video. And then underneath the lips, above the chin, this depression.
This depression.
And now you're going to find where your collarbone and your sternum connect. There's a joint right there. And just tap on that joint. This depression, trying to
This
feel the
depression.
emotion. Hmm. Great. Now you're going to tap underneath your armpit on your ribs, this
Should I go
depression.
underneath my hoodie? Or
Yeah, you can do it over your hoodie. Yeah, over
okay,
your clothes. So for physiologists out there, this is the serratus anterior muscle. That's the area. So underneath the armpit on the ribs, you can tap with all your fingers and just remind yourself of this depression.
this depression.
And then breathe in deeply and breathe out deeply and see if you feel different.
I do.
Yeah. So you're going to feel some relief and you're going to feel less of the emotion. Now, if you want to be scientific about this, well, personally scientific, because this is an experiment of n equals one. It's your own experiment. So if you want to be more objective, I should say, better than the science word, you would rate yourself on a scale of 0 to 10 before you start. That's even before you start the setup, on how intensely you feel the emotion. Then you go through the setup and the shortcut, which is the tapping routine I just showed you. And then you rate it again on a scale of 0 to 10. It's always 0 to 10, not 1 to 10, 0 to 10. And then you can see if the number changes. If it changes, but it's not down to a 2, which is basically normal, it's not affecting you anymore, then you go through the shortcut again. So you go through the tapping, that same routine, but you can skip the setup. Now, if you didn't have a change, then you need to start with the setup and do the setup again and the whole routine until you get a change. Then you can repeat with the shortcut. Some people will go on that first time, they'll go down to a 0 and they'll go, whoa. Some people will go down from a 9 to an 8. Great. Skip the setup, keep doing the shortcut and keep doing it until you're down to a 2, and then you're good. Now, the cool thing about this technique is because it's neurological, it is permanent. So that pattern now you won't be able to access that pattern anymore. Now, if you have a higher pattern of wanting depression or that emotion, whatever that emotion is, for some reason because it's serving you, then you can regrow that nerve pathway. But if it works, it's forever, that particular one, until you grow a new one. But now that you're aware of it, then now you can keep using this technique. You've got it in your back pocket to use whenever and wherever. And the cool thing about it is it gets more effective every time you use it because it's a learned technique, just like karate or anything else that you're learning, or my techniques. You get better at it, it gets more effective every time you do it because you get better at it. I'm to the point now where I can just imagine doing it and I don't even have to tap anymore and it works. So for me, it started out with food cravings. I did it for food cravings. And I would do the setup with, even though I'm craving these cookies, and then the tapping, this craving, this cookie craving, whatever I'm using for the words. And I tapped away a couple hundred different foods that I craved until I didn't crave anything unhealthy anymore. And then I started using it for emotions and still do. So if I'm in an emotion and it's not serving me, even anger can serve you in certain instances, but some emotions never do. And so, but even the ones that do, if you want to change the intensity, here's your volume knob. So you can use it and it's permanent. So you have to be careful. You don't want to tap away good emotions that do serve you because it's permanent. And then you have to regrow them. But for the ones that aren't serving you and are interfering with your life, this is magical. And this technique is actually on, I think, 3/4 of the brain types. So when people get their half a dozen that are their particular superpowers based on their brain type, this one will likely be on it. But if it's not, it's because it's not really as effective for their particular brain wiring because everybody's wired differently.
Yeah. Wow, that's amazing. I'm so glad we just said because I have a feeling this is going to be really informational, and we're getting really good response from the chat too. People are really interested. Now, what inspired you to write "Cracking Your Calorie Code," and what do you feel the mainstream fitness industry was missing?
Well, yeah, that's a great story. But before we go to that, I just want to let everybody know that this is a very popular technique. I did not invent it. You can find it everywhere. Just go on YouTube, type in emotional freedom technique, or go to tapping.com or my bit.ly.xgym/tap. And there's lots of resources to find this. And I just wanted to put that out there because if people are wondering where to do this or where to find it, it's super easy to find. And so there they go.
Yeah,
Because it's a great tool that everybody should have. Um, so as far as my book goes, I just wanted to come out with the truth. And you've looked up some of my social accounts, and the only one that I'm still not being at least shadow banned on is X. So I'm most active on X, and we're at XGym, XGYM is our account. But um, on all the other social, and including when it was Twitter, I even had to put a banned page up on xgym.com. If you just type in xgym.com/banned, you'll see the videos and posts and stuff that I was banned and deleted and censored for. And so I wanted to have a book out there that really told people the truth about health and fitness and the brain. And, there's a famous quote that says, notice what you're not allowed to question. That's where the truth lies. And so all the things that I was banned for, I'm like, oh, this must be the truth. So it was confirmation that I was on the right track. And then when YouTube found out that I took their deletions and censorship as badges of honor, they just started shadow banning instead of full on banning. So now nobody can really see my YouTubes anymore on my personal account. But
I'll just tell you, I had a channel taken down too. My fans know.
yeah,
Obviously, I had 20,000 subscribers, and they nuked
yeah,
my channel. I had to start over, and
yeah,
so I started building on Rumble too. That's why every time I go live now, I go live on YouTube, Rumble, and Facebook because I
uh-huh,
mean I wasn't a big fan of Facebook, but like then he said he wasn't gonna, I have a lot of followers on there, and he said he wasn't gonna. He was on Rogan saying he wasn't gonna censor people anymore, and I haven't had
yeah,
issues yet. Knock on wood. I
yeah,
mean. But I mean, it can always,
yeah,
I've said that about YouTube, and then the next day I've gotten a strike. You know what I mean? And some of the stuff that they'll strike you for doesn't even make sense. You know what I
I
mean?
know. Yeah,
And it's crazy. Like I was telling someone about this yesterday. It's like some of these people with bigger accounts, they let them get away with saying anything. So it's weird. It's almost like
I
they
know.
pick certain people to like target or like,
Yeah,
I don't understand it. You know?
yeah. I don't either. And I'm always skeptical that, those people that are saying things like we are that aren't getting banned for stuff that we are, maybe they're controlled opposition. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just it gets back to question everything, believe no one, and even yourself. It's just I got in a lot of trouble all through school by questioning the teacher too much because if something doesn't make sense to my brain, then I start asking why. And luckily, my parents, especially my dad, were very patient with me, and I was that why kid, way worse than other kids, asking why until he ran to the end of his knowledge, and he would tell me I the last why where he couldn't explain, we got deep enough where he would say, "Yeah, that's the extent of my knowledge. I have nothing more to say, but let's look into that together." And so that kind of got me started on research and looking into things. And so my book is kind of a culmination of my brain dump of everything that goes against traditional health, fitness, nutrition, and all those concepts of stuff that actually works. And a lot of it, you would get banned for talking about. But yeah, very non-traditional, very non-allopathic, and it's stuff that is biohacks, time hacks, and there's the main book on Amazon that I wrote in 2008 that is still 90% accurate. But then there's the updated Kindle version. So people can have access to both, whether they, like pages or whether they can do Kindle. But it's very different and unique. And it talks a lot about the brain, like we have so far, because when someone is successful with nutrition, exercise, health, all that stuff, and they've achieved their goals, they have figured out what's best for their brain. And whether they did it intentionally or whether they did it by accident through trial and error, they figured it out for themselves. But everybody's different. Everybody has a different road. So I don't, when I'm sitting down with an ex-gym member and talking about nutrition stuff, I don't have a PDF that I whip out and hand them. I just have, the first hour is asking them questions about their history, about their preferences, about what motivates them, what's worked in the past, what hasn't worked in the past, and then I can come up with something customized for that person. The biggest mistake most traditional personal trainers make is they tell somebody what to do without asking questions and figuring the person out. And then the person comes back to them and they say, gosh, there's an 80% chance, in fact, that their client's going to come back to them and say, gosh, yeah, your stuff makes sense. And I tried so hard. I don't know why I can't do it. I'm struggling. And then the trainer typically responds with, well, you just don't have enough willpower. So suck it up and just do it. What the trainer doesn't realize is their client doesn't have the same brain wiring. So the stuff that makes sense to the trainer isn't going to make sense to the client, 80% chance. And but if they can figure out their client's brain and appreciate and recognize that their client is wired differently than they are, now they can hack in. And that's why some trainers are using my brain type tests for their business. So they could figure out their people and talk to them in their language based on their brain wiring. And
Wow.
so, yeah, so the book talks a lot about that, about the brain stuff, probably more about the brain stuff than anything else, because that's the most important part. When you figure out how your brain is wired and what motivates you and how to stop bad habits and start new habits based on your own brain wiring, now you can succeed permanently and faster with way less willpower required.
Wow. That's
Because you're
amazing.
not, yeah, because you're not working against your brain. Your subconscious is in control of you. Your subconscious is your boss, and it operates at about the level of a 3-year-old. So anything that works on a toddler works on your subconscious. Your conscious brain, your prefrontal cortex, is the parent brain who trains the toddler. So if you can figure out your superpowers on how to train your toddler, now you're reprogramming that toddler. Now the toddler is working for you, not against you. And now the toddler is helping you get to your goals. And so it takes less willpower. And this is necessary because the toddler, your subconscious, is what's always in control, because that is what is driving your unconscious and conscious habits, patterns, and motivation.
Wow, that's amazing. So it's all about figuring out the brain.
Hmm.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this: like, what are some of the biggest myths and about calories and fat loss that we see in mainstream fitness culture? Like, what are a lot of us doing wrong when we're going on diets and training? And are there big myths and misconceptions?
Oh gosh, there's so many. And yeah, my book talks a lot about a lot of them, but I think the biggest one is the calorie in, calorie out theory. So that is still a theory because it's never been proven as fact, and it's wrong. So what people believe with that theory and what traditional dietitians are still going to tell you is it's all about the total number of calories. If you if your metabolism is 2,500 calories a day and you eat 3,000 calories a day, no matter how those calories are composed, you're going to gain weight because you're eating more calories than you're burning. Now, the dietitian is also going to tell you if you raise your metabolic rate 1,000 calories, now you're in a 500 calorie deficit and now you're going to lose weight. So you exercise like a fiend, but don't change anything on your nutrition, then you'll lose weight because now you're at a deficit. They'll also tell you, or you could just continue to sit on the couch, not exercise, and just cut your calories down to a 500 calorie deficit and lose weight that way. So they're also quoting the law of thermodynamics, energy in, energy out. Now, calorie is just energy. It's a unit of energy. So there's calories in a gallon of gas too. And if you plug that into a car, their theory is going to work great. The law of thermodynamics is going to completely apply. And the calories of, gasoline, calories in, calories out, completely apply. All that makes sense. There's a big difference between cars or any machine and human metabolism because our metabolism is completely dynamic and it depends on what kind of calorie we're eating, when we're eating that calorie, and our movement, our activity, how those calories affect our metabolism, blah, blah, blah. So the easiest way to explain this is if you were to eat, let's just say that your metabolism is 3,000 calories a day because you're active and that's the way, that's how many mitochondria you have and muscle mass and all those other factors for your personal metabolism. That's 3,000. That's your base. That's your regular, that's your active, and that's your resting together. So let's just say that you start eating 4,000 calories a day, but you're one of those crazy people, fanatic people, you're OCD, and you want to do it just with broccoli. So you're going to eat only broccoli all day, every day, and you're going to eat 4,000 calories of it. So now you're at 1,000 calorie surplus. A dietitian is going to tell you you're going to gain weight. But when I give them this scenario, they also glitched in the matrix because you see their expression change and the wheels turn and they're going, "Oh, wait a minute." And then they have to say what they've said all along because they're the Borg and they have to repeat what they've repeated for forever because that's part of their identity. And the strongest motivation in human psychology is to stay consistent with your identity. So you can't conflict yourself. So they're going to repeat their Borg answer. Yes, yes, you will gain weight. Okay. Then you ask them, all right, so what if I ate 4,000 calories of only Twinkies all day? And they will say, they'll be more comfortable with their answer now. They'll say, yes, you will gain weight. Okay. So is my, let's just say you're right. Am I going to gain the same amount of weight on 4,000 calories of broccoli as 4,000 calories of Twinkies? And now their brain glitches a little bit more and they don't know what to say. And then I tell them, I will tell you what would happen if 3,000 calorie dude ate 4,000 calories of broccoli. He's going to lose weight, even though he's at a calorie surplus, because broccoli is a high metabolic food. It's good for you. It's got tons of nutrients and even protein. So that dude is going to lose weight because his metabolism is going to adjust up. Unlike a car, whether you put regular or unleaded or super, it's going to do the same thing. But when we put broccoli in our body, our metabolism changes because it's a high metabolic food and we burn more. Now, when we put Twinkies in our body, which actually isn't food, it's a food-like substance. So we're putting chemicals and all sorts of crap in there. 4,000 calories worth, yeah, we're going to gain weight and it's going to be all fat and we're going to lose muscle because there's no protein in there. The broccoli guy is probably going to lose muscle as well because he's not getting enough protein, but maybe he is for his metabolism. Maybe he won't lose any muscle. He's going to lose a ton of fat because the metabolism has cranked up. And frankly, with 4,000 calories of broccoli, that is a lot of protein. So he probably is getting enough. So can you see where I'm going with this? It matters the kind of calorie. That's the most
What
important
about the
thing.
time you eat it? Is that a factor too? Like,
Yeah.
is it? I mean, a big myth is, or not myth. I mean, it seems like we shouldn't be eating anything at night. And my one of my issues with my whole thing was, I'll take edibles at night, because I like to
Hmm.
relax at night. I like to take an edible or smoke a joint or something, and like,
Hmm.
next thing you know, I'm waking up at like 2 in the morning, and
Hmm.
I'm
hmm
eating like ice cream or like I always get carb smart ice cream, but still, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not good to do that, right? Or is that what do you think? Like,
For most people, I can never say anything absolutely because there are no absolutes with humans. There is, again, with machines, there's absolutes, but humans, nope. And so, but I can say for most people, it's a better idea to cut off calories, food, no matter what it is, about 2 to 3 hours before you're going to go to sleep.
Yeah.
And so you go to bed a little hungry. Now, you're not going to be truly hungry after not eating for 3 hours. If you do feel hungry, it's emotional hunger. And there's lots of different kinds of hunger. Most of them are emotional or psychological. Very few of them are physical. To have true physical hunger, you would have had no food for about 8 hours. Now you're truly physically hungry. Otherwise, it's a sugar hunger, like a sugar low, or it's an emotional hunger or a food addiction or something like that. So 3 hours is totally easy to do physically, maybe not psychologically or mentally, but you can work up to it. So if it is too hard, great. Now you know it's mental, and you go 2 hours instead of three. And then you start walking it back and you increase that time based on your own progress, because everybody's different, until you get to three or more, like me. And then when you wake up the next day, that all depends on who you are. So some people are famished in the morning, so they should have some protein. Other people just aren't hungry for breakfast. Great. For you, it's easy to be an intermittent faster. And that's where you're skipping breakfast and you're stretching it out as long as you can until you are truly physically hungry. Then you start eating. So the timing is important, but for most people, it's starting with the evening because when your stomach is not digesting food anymore, when it's all gone from the stomach into your intestines, then now the stomach isn't working on anything and you're going to have way better sleep. And that's why it's also important when you wake up in the night, and a lot of people call that biphasic sleeping. And it's normal to a certain extent for people to have that. If you do have that, there can be causes of that we talk about, and there can be some solutions, but it's normal to not eat anything because then your stomach again is going to be working on something when you're falling asleep, which will interrupt your quality of sleep. So the key is that your stomach isn't working on anything. The food's still in your intestines, but your stomach shouldn't be working on something. So that's the key for cutting off that eating.
That's so interesting. And then I wanted to ask you about like intermittent fasting. Do you feel like that's the best way to diet? Like, or does this go back to like what you were saying about brain type? Like, is it good for some people? But it seems like a lot of people have a lot of success with it, you know?
Yes. What I tell people is intermittent fasting is a great way to get your habits in check and to get out of the emotional eating patterns, but it's not very good for dieting. It can work at the beginning, but then you might level off. And so what I tell people is do it for detox and health purposes, but not for dieting. So if somebody has an overeating disorder or they're eating all the time, it can be helpful for helping to break that. But also for some people and some physiologies, it's a horrible idea. So you just have to try it and see. And of course, do it properly as well. But again, if somebody does want to start intermittent fasting, they don't start with the 16-8 like I do, where you're only eating for 8 hours a day and not eating for 16, and eight of those are I'm sleeping, but is to phase into it slowly. So you start with 10, 10 hours. If you're a late eater and you're a morning eater, yeah, make it 10. So you're already sleeping for 8. So now you're just not eating an hour before bed and you're not eating an hour after you get up. Anybody can do that. And if you can't, then for sure there's emotional things going on. Then you can bring out techniques like the tapping or any of the other 30 techniques I have based on somebody's brain type to hack that and to solve that and rewire your brain so you can do it without the need of so much willpower like normal like normies I call them.
That's interesting. It's just such good information. Now what about XGym? Like, what? Tell us about XGym and like, I don't want you to give too much away because I want people to be, I want people to follow you and I want people to subscribe to your program and stuff. But like,
Hmm.
I'd love to learn a little bit more about it. I would like to know if it's for right for me because like, yeah, it sounds
Yeah.
really interesting.
Hmm. So the XGym is xgym.com, xgym.com. We have a club in the Kirkland, Washington, and we have online training, doing training people all over the world. And we have an exercise app. So for people that, can't do the online training or their schedule's wacky or they like to do just one exercise at a time instead of a whole routine, they do the app. And it's everything is on our website, xm.com, all the info on everything. But um, with the app, people can pick and choose. It's very basic, it's nothing fancy, but that's on purpose because people can just see the videos and there's filtering that they can do and find out and they can just do one exercise if they have 3 minutes, or they can do a whole workout, which is 21 minutes, or a cardio routine or whatever they want. They just pick and choose and just do it when they can. So it matches their schedule. But the most unique thing about our workouts is whether you're doing the app or online or at the club or a cardio class, it's never more than 21 minutes. And our 21 minutes is equivalent to about 3 hours of traditional training. So it's a huge time hack and way safer and designed to strengthen functionally and give endurance, but without muscle bulk. So people get toned and defined, but not jacked.
That's
Somebody
exactly what
wants,
I want. That's exactly what
yeah,
I want. And that's the
yeah.
exact body that I used to have because like mostly what
Hmm.
I was doing when I was in shape before was like I mean I didn't know anything about like anything like what you're doing X gym like I want to know
Hmm.
now but like back before when I was in shape like I told you I was
Hmm.
doing a lot of push-ups, pull-ups,
Hmm.
crunches. The only thing I used weights for was bicep curls. But like
Hmm.
by doing that and then I would run like 5 or 6 miles a day. By doing that
Hmm.
I was able to get like exactly how you said. Like I was like toned in shape. I had
Hmm.
muscles, and I was like But then like I don't know. Like I said, somewhere I just went astray.
Yeah.
It would take me
And,
a long time. Like going back to what you were just saying, it would take me a long time. Like sometimes I would have to put like sometimes I was doing like 300 push-ups a day, 300
hmm.
crunches, 50
Hmm.
pull-ups. And you
hmm.
know how long that takes because you can't just do
Hmm.
like 300 push-ups at once. You could probably bang out like
Hmm.
20 or 30 if you're in really good shape. Sometimes 50 if you're in really good shape. I was able
Yeah.
to do like maybe 10 or 20 pull-ups at once.
Yeah.
So like this takes a lot of time. So like I love what you're
Yeah.
saying about the X gym and I think it might be right for me because I
Hmm.
want to lose weight fast, but I also
Hmm.
want to, like have something that's, that's in my time frame because I spend a lot of time doing podcasts, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
and that's not even I do 3 podcasts a day and that's not even all the side work I do that people don't see
Uh-huh.
behind the scenes and stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm a really busy person. So it sounds like your program would be perfectly right for me, you know?
Yeah. Right. Well, I have 7 different methods that and 30 different splinter techniques, but here's how to make it easy for you. Start doing push-ups and pull-ups again and sit-ups again, but do them crazy slow motion. So you'll probably only be able to do one rep how I'm going to tell you to do it. But that's great because the goal isn't a number of reps, it's time under tension, which is one of our basic principles, and getting to complete muscle fatigue, which is our other basic principle. And so if you do a push up and you take 10 seconds to get to the bottom of your range, lightly touch your chest on the floor, very lightly, just so you know you're at the floor, and then start crazy slow because you're going to take 10 seconds to get back to the top. And the top is not a lockout with your arms. It's still bent elbows, slightly bent elbows.
Yeah.
And if you can do one, which will take you 20 seconds, then you keep going. You do another until you can't. Now you'll know that you can't because you'll fail on the concentric phase on the way up. You always fail on the way up. The way down, you're stronger than you're going up. So you'll fail going up. And then when you do, you'll be stuck. You just won't be able to move. And
Yeah.
then hold there and start pulsing. 1 inch little tiny pulses until you can't pulse. You'll feel like you have your tetanus where you're frozen. You can't. And then you hold until you can't hold, and gravity sucks you down against your will. Now you're at true physical failure. And that is how you get faster results. And however many reps you do, it'll be point something because most people can't even do 1 rep when they're doing it this way, especially if they start at the bottom, 10 seconds to get to that low top, which is basically 2/3 of the way up to lock out, and then 10 seconds back down. Most people can't even get a second rep in. But if you can, so it's going to be up to like 5 reps. Somebody who's in amazing shape could do 5 reps, but that's 2 minutes. That's 2 minutes of time under tension without ever offloading, which is a tiny little rest. So you're never offloading at the bottom because it's a light touch. You're never offloading at the top because it's never a lockout. It's constant time under tension, getting to complete muscle failure. And you know you're at failure because you get stuck on the way up, then you pulse till you can't pulse, then you hold till you can't hold, and gravity wins, then you win. And you can do this with pull-ups, you can do it with lunges, you can do it with bodyweight squats, and now you've got have this incredible time hack where you're doing very few reps, but a ton of time under tension, and always to complete muscle failure, which is the magical unicorn zone, because if you fail and your muscle fiber can't contract anymore because it's run out of fuel, only then does it see the need for change because it can't do it. If you do your last rep and you're successful, the muscle fiber says, well, I could do that. Why change? I'm good. I'll stay the way I am. But if you push to where you can't, then the muscle fiber is forced to change.
Wow, this is so interesting. One thing I wanted to ask you about. Sorry, this is a lot of different fitness questions, but like I noticed this guy on Instagram the other day. He has like a caloric scale where like he was making eggs and then he put it on the scale and it gave him his complete nutritional readout of what was in those eggs, the exact amount of protein and calories. Do you think that's needed in today, or like do you think those could be like efficient, or like what do you feel about those like caloric scales?
Yeah, for sure. It's very educational. It's the same thing as the continuous glucose monitors, the CGM. The little thing that people see, you see them stuck on their tricep. It's a little needle that stays in their arm the whole time, and it's got a little Bluetooth to your phone, and it shows you your blood sugar reaction. So when people are wearing those, they see how different foods interact with their blood sugar, and everyone's different. So it's biohacking. Same thing with that scale. You put eggs on this scale, you tell the scale what it is, and obviously, I haven't seen that, but it's a great idea because now the scale, because it knows what it's weighing, can tell you the micronutrients in there and macros. Macros are vitamins and minerals, macros are protein, fat, and carbs. And it's very educational. So the more you use stuff like that, the more you learn about food and the more you learn about your own body. And when you're learning about both of those things, you can apply that knowledge to yourself. This is what biohacking is. That's all it is. It's
Yeah.
just doing experiments and learning about yourself and learning about, how to use science and technology and hacking things and you're running your own experiments all day, every day.
And I have a question for you. What do you feel about like supplements and like I don't know if you ever heard of nootropics. Like a lot of people are into nootropics now for like mind biohacking. Like, do you
Mhm.
do you get into that stuff?
Totally. It's all legit. But again, everybody responds differently to different things. So you have to try these things and run good experiments, hopefully changing only one variable at a time to see if it works for you. Try it long enough to see if it works for you. The biggest problem people have is they get on social media and they see somebody who's pitching something, who's a very good salesperson. They're convinced, oh, this is going to be the next amazing thing for me. And they start trying it and then for a week until they see another post of somebody else with something amazing that they've convinced them to try. And then they try that and they're throwing all the spaghetti up against the wall, not knowing what's sticking because they're changing all these variables at the same time and they can never get anywhere. So you have to be as scientific as possible to find it out. Here's something that I use. It's this nasal spray, and
Oh,
so
I've tried
I
that before. I'm big into
yeah,
nootropics. It's C-Max. Yeah, that's like a Russian
yeah,
nootropic, right? Isn't it?
yeah, yeah, and it works. I mean, I don't notice a huge difference, but I notice a little,
Yeah,
and so it's worth the money. Now, here's the other thing. There's a lot of things out there that you're not going to feel working. If you're super unhealthy, you'll feel more things working than if you're really healthy. But a lot of it you have to take in faith too. So you probably remember a few years ago, there was a big, huge campaign against taking vitamins. And
yeah,
all the doctors are saying, no, it just turns into expensive pee and all that kind of stuff. Well, it's really hard for us to get all our nutrients from food nowadays because of our food quality has changed. Even if you're eating all organic and lots of veggies and grass-fed meat and all the right things, it's still hard. So a vitamin is an insurance policy. And sure, you might be, if a healthy person is probably going to be peeing most of it out, but an unhealthy person won't. So it can help you get to where healthier, great. But even if you pee it all out, let's say somebody is obsessive compulsive with their nutrition and they have figured out how to get all their vitamins and minerals through food. So what? So okay, maybe it's not helping. And I'm sure that but it's still not a bad idea and it's not going to hurt other than maybe you're wasting money. But I'm convinced that there's no human on earth that can actually do that and get all the nutrients from food. So why not? But of course, then you want to make sure the vitamin is good quality too, that you're actually absorbing it. So you're not going to take the one a day that you can get at Safeway. You're going to be taking, real food vitamins and that kind of stuff.
yeah. I was going to ask you about this stuff. I take on a daily basis. It's kind of like a pre-workout, or you can take it after workout. It's basically amino acids, but then it
Hmm.
has like a caffeine from tea in it too. It's called aminoline, and it's
Hmm.
it's, it's supposed to be vegan amino acids, And I've
Hmm.
been using it, because I heard somewhere that amino acids are the building blocks of life. So I was like, wait a minute. It's like if amino acids are the building blocks of life, that's probably something I want to have in my body. And
Hmm.
also I was diagnosed with non-alcoholic fatty liver,
Hmm.
because I used to have addiction. I don't have cirrhosis and I don't have what's the other one? A Hep C or anything like that. I just have
Yeah.
fatty liver. I think probably from like my addiction, which was 12 years ago. You know what I mean? But like,
Hmm.
it
Yeah.
still did. So my friend told me that amino acids would help the liver. You know what I mean? So
Hmm.
I was like,
Hmm.
well, maybe that's something I need. Like, I just kind of wanted to get your opinion on that because like you seem like to know a lot of. Well, it's not that you do know about all this. You do it professionally. So,
Hmm.
sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. And aminos can be helpful. And that's one of those things you're probably not going to feel, but you're doing it on faith that it's good for you. And again, you want to have a good quality amino. And there's a lot of scams out there, especially on, buying stuff online. If you go to Perfect Aminos, that's my Body Health, that's my favorite. Because they really are good quality control. But
Yeah.
it's not a magic bullet. It's better to have protein from food. So you're going to get all your essential amino acids from animal protein. And you can combine, a lot of different veggie protein to get all the amino acids as well. It's just more work as a vegan, but still can be done. But the easiest way is animal. And so that's like taking aminos, but with aminos, it's already broken down and more easily used, digested, and utilized. However, aminos aren't a very good muscle building solution. Protein by itself, either like meat or whey, grass-fed whey, is better for muscle building than aminos. Aminos is a great muscle sparing strategy. So if somebody is going to be fasting for a few days, aminos won't ruin that because there's 0 calories, but it will help them not lose muscle. It's actually hard to lose muscle. So you have to be fasting aggressively for a while for that even to start to happen. But as we get older, it's people eat less protein. It's harder to get it in. And if people are even older people who are intermittent fasting or not getting enough protein, especially not getting enough protein in their diet, then aminos at night would be a great idea. So they're not losing muscle at night because they're not eating enough protein. So it's think of aminos as more of a muscle sparing than a muscle building. And real protein, whey or meat or other animal protein, as a muscle building and sparing.
Yeah.
But
I just
yeah.
wanted to go over this with you real quick because like like I'm having kind of like a conscientious thing right now. Like,
Hmm.
in my community we have a lot of vegan people and I totally respect them and I feel them because I'm
Hmm.
like that. Like I get sentimental about animals and I care about animals, but then I just
Hmm.
had eggs last night for dinner, but like the protein powder I use is vegan and like the
Hmm.
aminos I use are vegan and like I use the Garden of Life protein powder, but I mean like so like
Hmm.
in my heart I'm a vegetarian, but like
Hmm.
I do eat meat sometimes, like
Hmm.
because I it seems like it's we're supposed to, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like, and I don't want to cause a big controversy in the chat, but like, what do you have any opinions on that? And
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, and,
it's totally doable as a vegan. And vegan aminos are going to be just as good as any other aminos. Um, and I think most aminos are vegan anyways. But with the whole I mean, there's two sides of the spectrum. There's the militant vegan, right, on this side of the spectrum, and then there's the militant carnivores over here on this side of the spectrum. Both of these militant, completely dedicated and only doing that ever, 100% of their life, are hard to do. They're doable, but the vegan people are going to have to take some supplements. They can't actually do it with food. They're going to have to take some supplements to fill in some holes, as are the carnivore people, unless they really like liver. But then they can overdo it. And so when you go extreme one way or the other, you have to do more work. It's
yeah,
still doable and it's fine to be extreme either way, but it's just more work. But when you're in the middle, and you're an omnivore, it's less work and it's just easier, especially for busy people. And our digestive system looks to be, when you look at the anatomy, a system of omnivore. It doesn't look like a cow and it doesn't look like a cat. So the cat is a carnivore. You try to make a cat a vegan and it dies. A cow is an herbivore. You try to make it a carnivore and it dies. They have very different looking anatomy with their digestive system. And humans are kind of in the middle. We have some things that look like a cow and we have some things that look like a cat. And so just looking at it, I actually did a social media post on this recently. It looks like we should be an omnivore. And that tends to be the easiest. And most of the people that are healthiest with the least amount of work that I know and have seen in my years of doing this since 1985 are omnivores.
yeah,
Now that omnivores shouldn't judge, I don't judge vegans and I don't judge carnivores. That's fine. It's just more work. And I think personally, I think it's healthier for most humans. Some people have to be a carnivore and some people have to be a vegan. It's very rare, but there's a condition that requires it. But for the vast majority of us, I've just, my personal opinion, that omnivore is the way to go.
yeah. And then Jason, he's one of my moderators. He had a question in the chat. He says, "What vitamins should we be taking?" But I'm gonna backpack on that question. Like, so like I think like people find you like so a lot of the people in my chat like that watch my show, they've had past issues with addiction, and it's a big thing in in our world right now, right? Like,
Yep. Yep.
so but, like a good thing a lot of people are recovering. But what I was gonna say is like. So what vitamins should we be taking? And then people who used to have problems with addiction, like should we be taking like different vitamins because we were recovering or something like that? Or like,
Hmm.
you know what I'm trying to say? Does that make any?
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. As far as vitamins go, I would suggest a whole food vitamin, multivitamin. Start with that. And then most people are deficient in vitamin D3. Most people are also deficient in magnesium. And so that would be a good place to start. So the most basic is just look into it. Make sure you're getting enough magnesium in your diet or take a supplement for it. And make sure that you're getting enough vitamin D3 or take a supplement for it. And go get a blood test. That's the way to find out. That's the first step in hacking yourself. And there's this website called functionhealth.com, created by a great functional medicine doctor, Dr. Hyman. And that is the cheapest way to get a full panel. And you get 2 tests per year, which is great. That's every 6 months. And then you actually get to see what's going on in your body. That's really the only way to tell. And that's how you know if you're getting enough of certain vitamins, minerals, and other biomarkers and what to do about it, because it also gives you tools on that. So as far as vitamins and minerals, that's what I would suggest.
That's
And yeah, and if you can get the Function Health, just subscribe to that and start doing that.
Yeah, and I just have and I don't think I have any more questions. Oh, I did want to ask you about cold exposure and saunas. Do you have an
Mhm.
opinion on those for
Yeah,
fat loss and health and stuff?
yeah. So I have an infrared sauna and I think sweating is great. I also sweat when I work out. Some people are really heavy sweaters, some people are lighter sweaters. And the heavy sweaters are at an advantage. It might seem like a pain. Oh gosh, I'm the sweaty guy. I'm sweating all the time. No, that's great because that's an awesome way to detox. We detox through pee, poo, and sweat. So as long as your motility is regular and you're drinking lots of good filtered water and you're sweating a lot, you got all three of those, you're probably going to come back with really low metals when you do your blood tests and all those other things that you're detoxing, and that's fantastic. So a sauna is great. Any kind of sauna that makes you sweat is great. And cold, the jury's still out, and it's different for everybody. If people want to do a deep dive, then they want to go look up Wim Hof, and he's the guru on cold exposure, and he's certainly biohacked how to do it best. But it's not for everybody. That's one thing that's not for me. For some reason, every time I try doing cold, and I've tried it probably half a dozen different times, I get sick. It attacks my immune system. Now, people that have done it for a long time and they've adapted to it g- reportedly have a stronger immune system. This is one of the things that Wim Hof would do. But when you're not used to it, you got to kind of ease into it. At least I do. But even when I do, for some reason, I don't know if it's placebo or what, but I get sick every time, and I rarely get sick. So for some reason, getting my body temperature down makes me super susceptible to virus and bacteria that are always floating around in the air all day, every day. And and I that just takes my immune system down enough to for me to catch stuff. So I just don't do it. I
Yeah.
do the sauna and I think it's great, but and other people do cold and they swear by it, and I think great, go for
Yeah.
it.
That's amazing. This has all been amazing information. And I just wanted to ask you, besides the health stuff, have you ever had any like paranormal or a UFO experience or something you couldn't explain or because we do cover all that a lot on my channel. Like, so did you ever have anything like weird or mysterious or I mean, I know I saw on your Instagram you kind of get into conspiracies and obviously you're into
Hmm.
like alternative health. So I figured
Hmm.
maybe you have had something different, something happen in your life. I don't know.
Yeah. So not necessarily as far as people gauge them and define them. However, spiritually, I have. And as far as UFOs, things like that, I have a theory, and it could be wrong, but I have a theory that yes, there are such things as extraterrestrials, and yes, there are such things as UFOs. I believe it's interdimensional, and I believe it's spiritual. So
Yeah,
my personal belief is aliens, as you know, the grays and all the different kinds of aliens and giants of the past and all that kind of stuff are spiritual. They're demons. and they're interdimensional. They come in and out, and it can be instantaneous and do all these weird things that we can't explain because it's interdimensional and they don't have to obey our physics and stuff like that. And so, yes, they're extraterrestrial because they're not of this world. And that's my personal theory. I could be wrong, and it could be possible because I'm a Jesus freak too. So it could be possible that God has created other civilizations on other planets. I don't think he did, but I could be wrong. And if I'm wrong and it were shown to me that he did that, I'm like, great, you're God. You can do whatever you want. And that's fantastic. That's really cool, by the way. I didn't think it was, but now you've shown me it is, and that's awesome. So, you're the boss. You do whatever you want to do.
Can I say it seems like there's something weird about our reality. It seems like I believe in God as well. I mean, I believe there's a creator of the universe, a source,
Yeah.
right? And I believe in Jesus, but
Hmm.
like I'm more spiritual, I would say, like, and
Hmm.
I would say like it seems like when you talk about string theory, that there might be
Hmm.
other dimensions to this reality, like
Yeah.
I don't know,
Oh, absolutely.
it's weird, right? I
Oh
don't
my
know.
gosh. I think we have only scratched the surface and we can only see the surface. There are so many dimensions. And I think we would be blown away if God could show us everything in all of his creation. We would literally die because we would be so blown away. And then we'd just be with him. But it would our head would explode. There is
Yeah.
so much. And that's why it's so fun to talk about stuff like that. It's just another layer of the onion. Other Christians tell me about this tapping technique, and I talk about, the energy meridians and all that kind of stuff. And they say, oh, no, that's woo woo. That's new age. You shouldn't talk about that stuff. I'm like, no, it's actually just another layer of the onion of God's creation. And it's really cool. So yeah, we have to be careful about the evil dark stuff and stay away from that and not even research it very much because you can get stuck into these holes and be dragged in. But to stay curious, to stay open, and to appreciate everything as not everything that Christians say is evil, maybe. A lot of it is, but we also have to pray for discernment. So every day I pray for more wisdom and discernment, and that only comes from God, in my opinion. And He's going to give it to me. That's a request He's always going to answer. And so then, more wisdom and discernment, now we can more easily discern what is truth and what is false, and what roads to go down that are safe to go down, and what roads to go down that not to go down because they're not safe. And it's just, it's a feeling, but it's all the same thing, and it's all the same onion, and we know a 0.0000% of what's really going on. That's reality.
I agree. I agree. Wow, this has been a fascinating episode. Thank you so much for talking to us today. And you want to tell people how they can contact you and how they can sign up for X Gym and like how they can access your courses and your
Hmm.
workouts and stuff. And thank you so much. I'm going to definitely check out X Gym because it sounds like it might be right for me. And yeah, this was
Yeah.
this was really mind blowing. Thank you.
Yeah, right on. My pleasure. Yeah, just really two main websites. It's just xgym.com is the big one, xgym.com, and then braintype.me. And those are the two, my hacking and health, fitness, knowledge, all that kind of stuff. You can find it on those two sites.
Wow. Well, thank you so much. And I look forward to. I'd love to have you on again. And
Yeah, right on. I'd love it. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
yeah, this was amazing. And all right, guys, I'll be live for everybody that's watching live now. I'll be live again at 1:30 p.m. Eastern. I have a girl coming on doing Zara is coming on to do a healing session. She's going to do a healing session, so we'll do that next. And then I have a show tonight too. So I'll see you guys.